Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And today I'm joined by a special guest. That's Matthew Lorimer. And Matthew is someone I've known for probably about 6 or 7 years now, maybe a little bit longer. Funny story, he came along to one of the fruit lucks I was doing, and it turned out that we lived really close to each other and had never met each other before. So Matthew's been involved in the UK Fruitfest a lot. He's helped a lot with that in the background and at the event as well. So a lot of you have been there will know Matthew, and he's been all over the place. I know he's been to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and he's done a long water fast with Loren Lockman. He's done retreats with Chris Kendall, and I think maybe other places. So you've been all over, Matthew. Be good to hear more about you and your story. Is there anything else you want to say about yourself in an introduction?
Um, no, I don't know what I can add to that, apart from I've been on the fruit diet for probably about 7 years, as you said, and that's how long we've known each other, since pretty much the beginning. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I have been all over the place. Obviously, I've been to a lot of retreats and such, just traveling the world, eating all the best fruit I can, and meeting lots of good people. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we should probably say you're also, I don't know what you would call it, like a manager, software developer is your profession, or is that the right
Yeah.
word, or not quite?
I'm the
Programmer?
CTO. I'm the CTO at a company here in Scotland who develop open source software. So CTO is the Chief Technical Officer. Um, so in essence, I'm a software engineer who manages other software engineers and other such things to do with computers and such.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. So it's quite good because it's not like you're some raw vegan chef or something. You don't have some kind of bias like that. You don't make a living out of the raw food thing, but it's something you do probably primarily just for your own health and enjoyment of life, I guess. But we'll get into that. So let me ask you about your story. Were you brought up on any kind of special diet, like vegan or vegetarian, anything like that?
No, not at all, really. When I was younger, I was all really a very fussy eater, and as much as my family we ate quite well, as my dad was a chef and we always aimed to eat quite well, I was quite a fussy eater, so I always ate very specific things from very specific shops,
Hmm.
etc. So always been a very fussy eater. Um, so other than eating a lot more, probably less, drinking less Coke than other people or such, you go to fast food restaurants maybe less, or eating
Hmm.
takeaway food less than other people. I would say we ate a pretty normal diet, nothing special, nothing vegetarian or vegan. Um,
And your
so
dad's a chef, isn't he?
yes, my dad's a chef, so um, yeah, that's a bit of his passion. So I think me switching to this lifestyle actually gave him some more insights into eat, making foods this way.
Yeah.
As my journey into the fruit diet didn't start with fruit; it started with more vegetarian, more vegan things initially. So
Yeah.
yeah, it has helped him to broaden his horizon from that perspective. And
And I remember you told
yeah,
me a story though that when you were at school, you would sometimes just have a bag of sweets basically for your lunch.
okay,
Is that
yeah,
right?
that is very true. Um, yeah, so given my own free reign, my own money when I was at school, I would sometimes throw away what my family provided for me, and yeah, go to the sweet shop, and the lady would see me coming, and she would literally take out a much bigger bag she would use for other people, and yes, we would fill that up. So yeah, that's probably um, some of the worst things I've ate is eating just penny sweets, or yeah.
So, and what was the start of like you starting to sort of become more conscious about your diet and changing it? Why did you start to go in that direction?
Yeah. Well, I guess it all started with me having quite severe acne on my skin. It was very noticeable, um, all from when I was about probably about 15 onwards, it really just started to get worse. I really enjoyed popping all the spots and such, so apparently that makes it worse, but it just felt natural to do it and such. But from off the back of that was probably my first venture into looking for things. I started researching how I could cure my acne per se. I tried various things, using olive oil, using toothpaste, taking every supplement under the sun in a certain order, just lots of random things. And eventually it led me down the path of going the medical route, to which they tried various solutions, some that had better effect than others. I know there was one based on zinc, which seemed to have the best effect, but apparently because I stopped using it, it wasn't effective. So I don't know if that would have actually solved the issue or not. I doubt it from what I know now. But eventually it led me to seeing a dermatologist who just instantly basically just prescribed me on Accutane, or Roaccutane as it's known here in the UK, which is a very common use, or a very commonly used drug to fight acne, and it's quite a severe drug. They had to make sure you weren't prone to suicide, check all your bloods before you used it and such, because there's apparently quite a few people committed suicide from taking it.
Wow.
Or so they said. So I was fairly instantly put on that after seeing the dermatologist, and this was quite an experience, as it effectively how it works is it really dehydrates your whole system.
Wow.
Which is quite the opposite of what I'm able to do right now. So when I was taking that, it really started to dehydrate everything. The acne went away. I can't remember how long it took for the acne to go away, but it basically completely went away. But my mouth, round about my mouth, would start dehydrating like quite severely. I'd have to constantly moisturize it. I had to go home from work one day just to pick up my moisturizer, just to moisturize. I would put eye drops in my eyes to keep them moist. It was quite an experience. They give you a dose based on your weight, and for whatever reason I decided I was going to deliberately underdose on it, just to try and reduce the effects of it. I can't remember the exact reasons. So after a course of that, it seemed to take away my acne, and everyone was happy. My family were particularly happy. It was them that really pushed me down this route. So it seemed to be a success from that regard, but it didn't leave the rest of my body in the best state.
Yeah.
My joints, for example, I could really notice, like my elbow joints, they just didn't feel right, and they would click a lot, and the acne did come back to a small degree. I don't know why it came back, but it did came back. So in essence, it had made an improvement to my acne, but it left me with more issues. And this was the point at which I probably started looking for more solutions. And it was probably on an off chance comment off from my sister that she spoke about an alkaline diet.
Yep.
Just a random comment. And off the back of that, I instantly Googled alkaline diet and just took the first link I found, and almost overnight I just started trying this diet out. And this diet was about eating a lot of things that I was not used to eating. It was about eating a lot of salads, a lot of beans, a lot of...
And just to be clear, this was your first dietary change? Like, this is the first time you tried to change your diet?
Yeah, apart from taking lots of supplements,
Right.
Up to that point, I was maybe trying to eat more food, because people always said that I could eat a lot more and put more weight on, and such. So, I mean, at this point, I was probably less fussy eater than I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Still not. I still wouldn't eat a lot of things. But yeah, I just decided to switch to some random diet I found on the internet, just to try it out. So yeah, I fairly gradually went into it. Like I would make things like toast with tahini, with seeds and salad on top.
Sounds
This is
quite
kind of
good.
yeah, it was quite good. Like, but it was something I was not used to eating at all. It was
Right.
a complete shift from what I was eating before.
Yeah.
And one of the big positives of this diet, obviously, was that it cut out dairy almost entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest that probably was a big benefit of that diet. It was, I believe I felt a lot better on this diet initially. But the funny thing about this diet was that they really were against eating fruit.
Right.
You were only allowed grapefruit or lemons or limes. Now, luckily for me, I quite liked eating grapefruit, so I could eat quite a lot of grapefruit. But long term on this diet, I don't feel it would have been sustainable.
Did it improve your acne? Did you see much of a change?
Yes, effectively took away my acne.
Nice.
Short term on this diet, I mean, the acne did come back quite prominently following the Accutane. Not as bad. It was more in Pacific areas.
Yeah.
But after a short time, a relatively short time, maybe 6 to 12 months, I would suggest. I can't remember the exact details. Like the acne just went away in effect. And this was probably because of the change in my diet. So I was effectively, the diet was very much a vegetarian diet with some chicken or randomly in it.
Right.
On Pacific dishes. So in essence, the diet provides you with some recipes and my mum was always quite into eating or cooking some interesting dishes, so she very much enjoyed it. This is where we got a lot of new dishes from. Like we'd make chili non-carne. That's one of the recipes. So
Right, so it's more vegetarian, more vegetables and whole foods than you were used to.
Yeah.
But no fruit. That was
it was no fruit. Yeah.
no sugar in general.
Yeah, so that was the basis of the diet. The alkaline diet was based on how when they burnt it or something, how alkaline it was. And obviously fruit would come out acidic at this point, but I think it was based on Robert Young.
Yeah.
So and I got a special water ionizer from the site and such, and tried everything out. So
you also told me like it was a lot of salt.
Yes, that was another big part of the diet, was that you would get your water and then you put special salts in it. Really, what they were able to do, is suggesting they were able to do is up the pH of it. But it just got to the point where I could actually feel the salt.
Right.
I just felt like I was having too much salt.
Right.
Because they recommended, for example, what's the pink salt? Himalayan salt.
Yeah.
And I would you put all the Himalayan salt on your foods, and then you're drinking water with salt. It was really excessive salt at that point. I just didn't feel good on it. And I think eventually it just didn't feel sustainable. It didn't feel like it was satiating me. It got to the point where late at night, I would maybe sneak other food, for example, crisps. I can't remember what else, because that's what I used to do late at night, was I would eat crisps, like salt and vinegar crisps. What I think about it now, it's kind of funny, is that no one else would have bothered that I was eating this, but I was waiting till late at night to go and eat this when no one else would have really cared. Which is a funny thing. I look back on it now that I was hiding this, but no one else. It was only really me that I was hiding
Yeah,
it
I
from.
see. I see.
So
So
yeah,
you were doing that, and at what point did you start to make further changes?
yeah. So this would have been around 2012, that I started from this website that I was following. Um, I I managed to latch on to other people at the time who were in what they call the raw food movement,
Yeah.
like David Wolf. There were some other people that I can't remember their names there.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I remember watching videos on YouTube where they would talk about supplements that you need.
Yeah.
And they would go through, it was like a big conference basically showing you need to buy this supplement and that supplement and this supplement. And I remember there was one that was like, it was something, I
Like a
can't remember what it was.
longevity warehouse conference or something like that.
Yes, that sounds about right. Yeah. So,
It's like all these
so
overweight guys telling women what supplements they
yeah,
should buy.
yeah. So I mean, I started looking into this, and I think at this point I was just starting to be disillusioned with what they were saying, and that you needed to have all this stuff and just random stuff. Like with the Alkaline Diet, we were eating a lot of whole foods, and that kind of resonated with me. Eating vegetables and stuff, I could see that. But this was then talking about eating lots of strange things, lots of supplements, and I'd already been down the supplement route, and I wasn't too enamored with it. So luckily at that point, a YouTube video popped up from Durian Rider, basically
Yeah.
saying, why is David Will fat, overweight, and such? So I must have watched that, and yeah,
And I've said to you, that's the first Durian Rider video I came across as well. So
yeah,
I was,
yeah,
I remember coming across David Wolf first as well, and then Durian Rider after.
yeah. So I don't think it was on his official channel, but it just kind of led me down the path of watching Durian Rider's videos. So, I mean, back in the day, he was very aggressive with his message and very pro eating fruit at that time, like getting your bananas in, getting everything in. So I guess this must have had an effect on me, because probably at the least opportune moment, I decided to try it.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in Oxford at the time. I generally work in Scotland, but I was visiting a client in Oxford, and I was staying in a pub in the middle of nowhere with no car or anything, and I only had access to a Waitrose at lunchtime. And it was at this point I decided to go 100% raw, just randomly to try it. I don't know. I can't remember exactly why I decided this point, but I guess Durian Rider's message was getting through to me. And I went to Waitrose and got some bananas and some blueberries. So obviously the bananas were not that ripe. I didn't realise that at this point. So I was eating them, but didn't eat a lot of them. I ate the blueberries and yeah, realised that I didn't have enough food. So I looked at the menu on this place I was staying at, and they had a salad. So I ordered the salad and ate the salad. Yeah, and I kind of just tried it out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of when I made the switch.
Did you find that
For,
difficult to make a transition towards a raw diet? And by the way, did you go vegan and raw at the same time?
yeah, so obviously my previous diet, I was in the alkaline diet, which was mostly not fully vegetarian. It was mostly vegetarian. I was still eating some meat at that point,
Mm-hmm.
mainly chicken. And
Was
then
was it dairy free, that diet?
it was dairy free, yeah. Um, yeah, that was a big part of it. Although when
Yeah.
I came to the supplement part of it, they were trying to promote a product that was based on dairy. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it
Like
was.
colostrum or something, or
Yeah, exactly that. Yes. So luckily I missed out on that. and managed to find the fruit diet.
Yep.
So yeah, this was a week in Oxford where I kind of tried it. And myself, I'm quite a strong-willed person. Like if I want to do something like this, I seem to be able just to switch and go through it. Even if wasn't eating enough, I can just keep going. I've got willpower to keep going with it. But when I went back home, obviously I had cupboards and cupboards of beans and stuff all set up for my current diet. And obviously it's just myself eating this diet. So living with my parents, they weren't too happy that I was stopping eating these things. But in essence, I just started eating more and more fruit. And as I understood what 80-10-10 was, at that time it was the concept of eating 80-10-10 or 80-10-10 raw vegan. And as much as I wanted to eat fully raw, because that's what people were promoting online, I ate a lot of fruit during the day, and then in the evening I would have typically baked potatoes or boiled potatoes. And this went on for a while, where I would increasingly eat more and more baked potatoes. Like just eventually I would just get an extra plate of baked potatoes. That they would just never satiate me. Obviously I was quite new to the diet and was still learning. So in essence, throughout the day I was eating fruit for breakfast and lunch, and then I would come to dinner and trying to eat all these potatoes, and usually with avocado, like a guacamole and a salad. And yeah, and then after this I was still hungry. And what I found was what could I eat? It was I wanted to eat fruit, so I was eating fruit, but eating fruit after eating potatoes and such, and avocado.
Yeah.
It just was not a good combination. So I can't remember exactly why, but I remember the specific date that it was Easter Sunday on 2012 that I decided to stop eating potatoes and go 100% raw. Mainly because it wasn't working for me. Eating half cooked, half raw. And I think I can't remember why my sister didn't believe I could do it or something, but that was kind of like the premise or the basis for me making the switch. Yeah, so I guess the longer I did it, obviously I learned more. I learned when fruits were ripe. Like I learned to eat bananas when they were ripe.
What were the sources you were learning from? Was it mostly YouTube, or did you buy books and things, or anything else help you at the time?
Yeah, so I remember I got the 80-10-10 book for Christmas. That was at the top of my Christmas list. But yeah, it was mainly watching YouTube videos. I think mainly watching Durian Rider. I remember watching Dan McDonald's Life Generator. I remember I watched him long before.
Yeah.
I'd seen him before, but he was one of the people I was watching. It's hard to remember who else I watched at the time. But yeah, I guess, yeah, it was mainly Durian Rider I was watching, and obviously at that time he's talking about getting the bananas in, so I started having banana smoothies with 10 bananas and whatnot. Yeah, it's hard to even remember now exactly what I was eating. Back then, because I've come such a long way since then.
Sure.
I really feel like it was a really gradual process overall. As much as I maybe switched to raw in quite a dramatic way at the start, I really feel like every year I just improve my diet and learn something new and make changes as I go on. I suppose early on I'm drinking more shop bought juices or pasteurized juices or things that I would not enjoy, would not want to eat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. So, how long do you think it took for you to like you were on 100% raw and like you never went back? How long did it take for you to get to that stage, you think?
How long did it take me to get to that stage? Well, really, from Easter Sunday, I've never really looked back.
Right, right,
Um, as I said, I'm very strong-willed, so even if I was at points where I know I wasn't eating enough, I could just keep going. I would not
right.
deviate. I think there are times when you have phases where you eat maybe less optimal things, but I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
ultimately it was always as raw as it possibly can be.
Sure,
Um, so, and as I said, I phase these things out. So,
sure. And
so
how
yeah,
was that around about the same time? When did you come to the Fruit Lock and first meet myself? Was that around about the same time, or was that a little bit later?
yeah. So, um, I was obviously getting into this in 2012, and I remember the Woodstock Fruit Festival was on in 2012, and I seen Durian Rider there, and I think you were at that one. So
Yeah.
it was after this point that I think I went on 30 bananas a day and searched for people in my local area. I mean, I think it's funny that I never did this before with any other diet. Look for other people, but with the fruitarian diet, I don't know. I must have been encouraged to do it, and yeah, I can't remember how I found your Fruit Lock, but yeah,
I might have
found
posted it
it.
on that site or
Yeah,
something.
you
Yeah.
might have done, and obviously, yeah,
But
we
it's
met up.
funny because I did the same thing when I went on 30 bananas a day and I looked for people in Glasgow and I think I think there was maybe 30 people or 20 people or something and I messaged them all and I didn't really and I realized like I thought they were all still active in the forum but most of them weren't and some of them were I remember speaking to one of them like oh yeah I tried that for a week or whatever like I didn't realize that they weren't that into it and yeah, I guess none of them were that interested in getting back to me, or they didn't message me back or whatever. But
Yeah,
and
I don't think I messaged anyone personally. Yeah.
yeah, and then from there you went to the UK Fruit Fest. Was that the first bigger event?
Um, I don't remember. I think the Woodstock. Because I remember when we first met up.
Uh
We
huh.
met up at the Fruit Lock and
Yeah,
at your Fruit Lock, and there was I think there was only four of us there. Um,
in the Botanic Gardens.
and Botanic Gardens, yeah. Because I'd never even been to Botanic Gardens. Living in Glasgow, I didn't even know it was there. It's such a great place to go, actually. Yeah, and meeting some random people, and
I think there was a guy
yeah,
called Ben. Was there a guy called Ben
there
there at the
was
time?
a guy called Ben and probably Monique.
Monique.
That
Yeah,
that that's that's the
Ben was a
probably
total
who.
know-it-all. Like he knew everything about the raw diet, and but he could never stick to it. He's one of those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I remember speaking to you, and you were talking about where you were shopping. You were talking you shopped at Tesco at Silverburn. I was thinking, well, I shop at the Tesco at Silverburn. Where do you live? So, yeah, and as you said, it turned out you live within literally quite literally pretty much within the same estate. One,
Right.
I
Yep.
could walk to your house in 1 minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we went out for a walk, and I think really at that point I was quite nervous about going to any events. wasn't a confident person, because really I'm quite an introverted person as it is, and I never even left the country per se. I didn't have a passport, and I was thinking of going to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which is in New York, and yeah, and I think we met up and spoke about that.
Right.
Um, So yeah, that I remember. I think 2013 we went to the first Woodstock Fruit Festival.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I got on the plane myself, flew over myself. Yeah, it was a whole new experience. So I mean that's a great thing the fruit diet has done for me. It's given me more confidence to go and meet people, to talk to people. As much as I'm still very introverted, it's really made me broaden my horizons, maybe fly to places I would never go. It's given me the ability to meet other people. And as you said, I go to various retreats, like Grant's retreat in Thailand, or going to Costa Rica with Chris Kendall, or fasting with Loren. And going to the
Yeah.
Woodstock Fruit Festival was really just a great experience. Yeah, it was an interesting experience for someone like me as an introverted to go over to America and see 500 Americans.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I think the thing is, I've always said to people that like because it's easier to meet friends somewhere like that because you've got something very in common with people that you can actually connect with. Whereas if you just went to a random thing of 500 people, like a music concert or a conference or whatever, like often you don't really have a very specific connection. And
no.
I think the people at Woodstock are often looking to make friends because they don't know
Yeah,
anyone else that does it.
so I think it's when you live a lifestyle like this, it really makes you want to connect with other people, especially people who are doing this. It really opens your eyes to what, um, yeah. So I think that's a big incentive for people when they go to these events. So yeah, and I think so. Following on from that, I'm sure the first UK Fruit Fest was the year after, potentially.
2014, yeah, probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So yeah, so that's.
And did you come down to the? You didn't come to the
I
fruit
didn't, I
camp.
didn't. I didn't come to fruit camp, no, because that was. I remember very specifically that was the same weekend that my company was launching our doing our major product release. So
Yeah,
uh, that was the reason I didn't go.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, otherwise I probably would have went.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
so
Yeah. So tell me about. Well, let's talk about Woodstock first. What do you think was the best? You went quite a few times. I think you've not been in the last few years, but what were your sort of the things that you took from it and your best memories and stuff?
um, so my best memories are really just the positive vibes of meeting all the people. It's such a positive experience to go and meet all people who are living or eating this way. It's amazing how what a positive experience it is and the positive vibes you get from it. So that is a huge thing, especially when there's so many people there. It's really quite an experience. And also, it was very interesting. Obviously, I'd never been to the US before, so it was really interesting to walk around New York and see all the fruit vendors and random smoothie bars that
Yeah.
you maybe don't commonly see where we live, and get different fruit. And yeah, so yeah, it was just such a great location, really great food, great people,
Mm.
and a great event overall. And I think I've been, apart from last year, and obviously, well, apart from 2 years ago, I didn't go. And last year, obviously, it wasn't on. I've been every year, apart from the Hawaii adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to almost all of them since my first one. Yeah, it was just a really great. I think
Did you
that event.
learn a lot? Did you like the lectures or did you prefer the activities, or what was it for you that?
Yeah, I think it was going and listening to people. I think I went to a lot of lectures, especially the first few years.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that that was a big part of it for me, was going and listening to people like Doug Graham, Dr. Sam, Chris Kendall, doing the yoga.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of speakers, and I think the event's changed over the years. I mean, I think for me, after the first few years of attending lectures, it becomes less of something that I wanted to do. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
but it still is still it's interesting to go and listen to people and take more in. You can listen to the same talk a few times and learn new things, so that you maybe missed the first time. So
Mm. Mm.
I'm
Mm.
still interested in listening to people, and I think that's the key difference to the UK Fruit Fest. It's still a big part of it, um, and I still enjoy listening to people,
And,
even though
yeah.
I'm more experienced and I have a lot of knowledge. But
Well,
still, you can still learn from other people.
you gave a talk at the UK Fruit Fest this year for the first time, or last year, sorry.
Yeah,
Did you enjoy that?
yeah, it was definitely a positive experience. I got a lot of positive feedback. Again, it's not something I naturally do. Being behind the camera, being behind the scenes is more my natural
Mm-hmm.
state. But Yeah, it was interesting to go up and give my story. I feel I could have been better prepared, but yeah, it was certainly enjoyable.
It went
Um,
well, yeah.
yeah, I feel like obviously I've been on this diet for a number of years, and I've got a lot to share.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I've tried a lot of things out. For me, it's a lot about experimenting with what works, what works for me. I mean, what works for me might not work for someone else.
And
So
well, the thing I would say about you is like there's a lot of people talk about the raw diet and stuff, but you're one of the people that actually commits to 100% raw diet, and your diet is very. There's not even a lot of, as you're saying, you wouldn't have a lot of store-bought juices and things like that. You don't have a lot of dehydrated stuff, or like, you stick to very fresh, very raw, juicy fruits mostly.
yeah,
Um, why is that rather than like 90% raw or whatever some people say they do?
right. Yeah, well, there's 2 points really on that. Why 100% raw? For me, it just has to be 100% raw. I don't feel good eating cooked foods. Like sometimes when I'm traveling, like I was picking up store bought smoothies, and yeah, you just start to notice how bad they feel. Um, Even though they're really, I'd always get obviously the highest quality I could buy, but yeah, eating 100% raw for me is like just feels easier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
for me, it's just easier. I can't give a clear reason why it's easier for me than other people. Um,
sure.
but I think yeah, it just feels like for me it's all raw or not all raw.
Right, right, right.
Um,
And
but
what would be your typical diet at the moment be?
yeah, so my typical diet at the moment is whole foods, typically mono meals.
Hmm.
Most days I'll start with melons. As I said at the festival, like it's not unusual that I'll take 5 or 10 melons to work. Um,
5 or 10 melons?
yeah, if I want a double sitting. So I mean, typically, depends on the size of the melon, of course, but yeah, that's very common. What I have, I think, where I've been 365 days a year, I have melon for breakfast.
Hmm.
And obviously, the melons may change by the season, but we're very lucky here in the UK that we get a lot of melons coming in from all over the place.
Yeah,
Um, and other than that, yeah, I aim to eat a lot of juicy fruits, like you said. So I guess this is following on from my water fast that I really made the switch to cut out bananas on a large scale. That's probably the key thing, as well as eating whole foods instead of smoothies and juices. So
yeah,
yeah, so I mean, for many years, bananas were my staple fruit,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and they were never really one of my favorite foods. I always felt like I got a mucus reaction from eating bananas.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and people do say that you have to drink water after eating bananas, and people suggest that they're not as hydrating as other fruits.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's still when I eat them now, I get a reaction. So I don't know if it's in my mind if I overate them or what it is, but
I think
yeah,
I get a reaction from bananas as well. I
yeah.
just, I, I,
But
I don't mind them
yeah,
too much, but
I don't get the same reaction when I eat apple bananas, for example.
right, okay.
I noticed when I was in Thailand, if I ate a banana that was similar to a Cavendish banana, I would get the reaction. So
Hmm.
I can't put my finger on what it is, but yeah, I think not eating bananas doesn't affect me. If I really needed to, I could go and eat them. It's not like I avoid them. I mean, even recently, I ate a lot of apple bananas because I was able to order some in. So yeah. So otherwise, I eat a lot of whole foods. I eat a lot of grapes, mangoes when I can. So my typical diet is I'll have melons for breakfast, and 2 other fruit meals, and a salad with my last meal if I'm that way inclined. So yeah, it's all, I very rarely use my blender nowadays. The only time I use my blender is if I make a dressing for my salad typically,
Hmm.
and it's usually always the same dressing. It's one mango, one red pepper blended together. That's it.
That's your salad dressing, one mango, one
That
red pepper.
yeah, it makes a great sauce. So yeah, I mean, I think I eat a very simple diet compared to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
sure.
I don't go for the complex stuff.
Do you eat
Like
salad every night?
no,
No.
not every night.
So what would be your typical evening? You have 10 melons at work maybe, and then
So yeah, on a day, sometimes I'll eat like so. Typical midday, I'll have melons for breakfast. Maybe around 3 o'clock, I'll have another meal, which depending on what we're having, where we are in the year. Like some points we're getting lots of melons in, and I'll have more melons again. So, for example, I'll have 5 cantaloupe melons for breakfast, and then 5 Gallia melons for my next meal. And then in the evening, typically, um, depending on what fruit we have, I'll have, for example, five plus mangoes, and then have like a salad with mango dressing, um, avocado, tomato. So my salad is typically just lettuce, like pure lettuce, tomato, and avocado. That is my salad.
hmm
And my dressing, if I have the dressing, it's red pepper and mango. So
Yeah. So you
I,
consistency
yeah, so I'm
rather
quite
than
consistent.
difference. Yeah.
So I mean, it will vary by the season. Like at the moment, I'm eating a lot of custard apples,
Oh,
um,
nice.
mainly because I'm getting them locally. Well, I'm not getting them locally, but I'm getting them in the shops locally. Um, yeah, I'm eating
What,
apple bananas because I ordered some in.
where are you buying custard apples?
Marks and Spencers.
All right. Okay. Very. That's nice.
Yeah, well, my parents are buying them for me, so yeah.
Very cool.
So, um, yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. I eat very simply. That's really where I've got to. Like over the years, I drank a lot of smoothies, I drank a
Yeah.
lot of juice, just my own juice. But now I get up in the morning and I throw some fruit in my bag. I take whatever I need to work to open it, to eat it, and yeah, whole foods. And
How,
I think
how,
the benefit of eating whole foods, I know when I'm satiated and I don't overeat. It feels good. I know if it's low quality, like with a smoothie, if you put lots of fruit in, if you get a low quality one, it's just going to bring your smoothie down
yep.
and such. But yeah,
Excellent. So you're you got quite a big responsible job, CTO, managing people and all that. Got a lot of clients, obviously, all over the world, like important clients and stuff.
yeah,
Is there any negatives with the fruit diet or that lifestyle in the workplace or in the corporate world or anything like that?
yeah. I'd probably say the key thing is like if they're going out for dinner, or you're taking a client out for dinner, or they're going out for drinks or whatever. Um, yeah, I would tend not to go. Um, in my position, I'm more on the technical side, so I'm less inclined to do that. But in my position, it does come up. Obviously, in the world we're living in now, it's not such an issue. But
Yeah.
yeah, but, but equally,
I have
when we're
often
having
thought, yeah, I've often thought that it could be a little difficult for like salespeople or something who are maybe trying to like bond with people and eat the same food as them and stuff, and that.
yeah, I think you've spoken about that experience before, like so, and I can see how that would happen. But in my experience, yeah, like I'll typically have a salad, and no one's really bothered about it. I'm not trying to sell to people.
Yeah.
I'm usually the person they want to speak to because I can solve all the problems. Yeah.
So yeah, and did anyone ask questions at work or does that ever come up about the diet?
Yeah, like it does come up. Like obviously, like it stands out. People can see that I'm just eating fruit. But in my company, I'm the employee like who's been there the longest. So being there first maybe makes it easier.
Yeah.
As opposed to coming into a new environment. But yeah, like I just let everyone know, and like no one seems to bother. Like more often, people will come and tell me they're eating fruit or show me what they're eating.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like that's the positive effect it has on people. I think I've learned through the years that it's better not to try and sell it to people. It's better to be the example.
Right.
People will look at you and see what's happening. Yeah, and I don't make a big deal of it at work. Like, so it's
Sure.
so I, I make it easy by myself. I just always bring my own fruit with me. Whenever we're having like a pizza night, like I'll bring fruit with me, and it doesn't bother anyone else. So
Excellent.
yeah, I
Excellent.
just make it work.
And you also have been to a couple of retreats. I'd like
Yes.
to ask you about those. I don't know if I've really been to a retreat. I kind of have, but
Yeah.
so they're kind of like smaller than the festivals, more focused, probably a little bit more fancy with the food, I would imagine. So what was been your experiences of them?
Yeah. So I think I've been to Chris Kendall's retreat in Costa Rica. I've been to Grant Campbell's retreat in Thailand, and my fashion retreat was quite different. So, but I'll
We'll
talk
talk
about the
about
first
that
two.
after. Yeah, we'll talk about that
Yeah,
separately.
yeah. So, I mean, a really great experience for me. I think going to a festival, it's a big crowd, but going to these retreats, it's a small group of people, and yeah, it's just really great to be with like-minded people and small and nice locations. Like going to Costa Rica, I was getting to try different fruits like Rollinia, which I'd never tried before. Um, yeah, and being with other people, which like usually the retreats I've been to are like they're action retreats, so we're climbing up mountains, going down to the seaside and surfing, or
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, it's really a great place to go, get sunshine, and be with great people. Like going to Thailand also was a great experience. We had durian every day. We had pineapple for breakfast every day. So yeah, it's just going to these places with other people is something I really enjoy doing. Going to an organised event, there's always it's just really action packed. Like Grant Campbell's retreat is like full on adventure every day. Um, so yeah, I really recommend going to these places if you can. For me, it was a really great experience meeting new people and eating new fruit, and
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. And what made you decide to go and do a water fast?
Yeah. So I guess it's something I've been interested in for a while. It's something I did 2 years ago exactly. At this point, I would be water fasting. Um, I guess I learned about it at first at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, where Doug gave a talk on it and explained it. And after that, I seen other people going and doing it. I seen them online going to do the water fast. Yeah, and I at that point, this would have been back in probably 2013. I thought I'll just try it for a day or two. Um, yeah, and it was an interesting experience. And I guess the general thing I felt that my body wanted to keep going with it. That was the feeling I had when I tried water fasting. Like I just wanted to keep water fasting. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously I wasn't in the position to do it. I didn't really know what I was doing. And yeah, so I gave up on it at that point. But all through my many years after that, I tried various smaller fasts, which I came to realize that doing small fasts, 1 day fasts, were not really a huge benefit to me at that point. I was quite skinny at the point. I think I just lost more weight and couldn't really put it back on as readily as I would like.
Yeah.
So generally, I feel the main reason that I wanted to water fast was to improve my digestion, was my key aim. I personally felt that I was maybe not absorbing as much as I could, as effectively as I could. And watching videos from Loren Lockman, I feel like I got the impression that that's something that potentially could be resolved
Yeah.
by water fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the opportunity came up a few years ago that I could get the necessary time off work. I had sufficient cover at work, and yeah, I decided to go and water fast with Loren. I watched a lot of his videos online beforehand. I spoke to him beforehand, and yeah, I was really up for it. And yeah, we started just at the end of December a few years ago. I did a 21-day water fast, and yeah, it was a very interesting experience. The first thing I would say, it was a very positive experience because I was fasting with other people who are all doing the same, and at first it doesn't really feel like you're fasting. When I was at home fasting myself, it was a bit harder, but being in this environment, yeah, it just felt really easy. But for me, yeah, the first week was quite difficult because I had a lot of pain. What I felt was in my stomach. I don't know if this is because what I was focusing on, I wanted to fix. This is what my body decided to fix. I don't know. But generally, yeah, I had a lot of pain where it seemed a lot easier for everyone else in the group in the first week. But that released by the second week. And the second week I was very energetic. So like everyone else was on the way down, and I seemed to be very energetic in the second week. So not quite sure why I was, but yeah. And in the second week, when I was drinking the water, it tasted kind of sweet. That was the other strange thing about being on the water fast, is as you went through the water fast, the water kind of changed, or it perceived to change.
Yeah.
Which was suggested that it was basically because it's what your body's producing in your mouth and your tongue potentially is altering the flavour of it.
Yeah.
And everyone else was kind of commenting the same, that it tasted really sweet, whereas in the first week it just tasted plain. And yeah. And then in the third week, I guess I had a back injury that I could start to feel like this was quite a recent back injury that I had. It was my upper back, and yeah, I could start to feel this through the fast. On the third week, wasn't that painful, but I could just feel it. And I had felt it previously that it had already healed, but
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't perfect. But this is what my body decided to do. Like, decided to do something on my back, and it feels brand new now. So that's what it decided to do. But the third week was quite difficult for me because I got really quite skinny and quite lethargic on the last week. So I felt at that point I was really ready to eat again. My roommate, by contrast, he felt after 21 days water fasting, he was really just getting started. So he came from a different point with me. Like, his last meal was a cheeseburger, he says, whereas my last meal was papaya. Yeah, I felt like I came into the fast really ready to go, and really went with the process. Where for him, he came in, he was quite well built, and yeah, I think it was maybe an easier experience for him. Like,
Sure.
every day when we did our checks, like, we'd always check your blood pressure and such, and his results were always the top of the class. Like, his were perfect.
Oh wow.
Whereas mine's were always need to drink more water. And that's a big thing I've learned from the water fasting, is sipping water, learning to drink a lot of water, because that's one of the key premises of it, is that we're trying to rehydrate old hard material that's perhaps there from our old lifestyle that we're trying to remove. So once I started refeeding, it was a great experience, because the fruit just tastes amazing after not eating for 21 days. Like, we were eating really great coconut water and great melons and such. And that was a really great experience. I think a great experience because I was doing it with other people. There was like 4 or 5 of us all in the same group refeeding together. So it was a really great experience to be with other people. And throughout the week you just get stronger. You're told to do more exercise after the 3rd or 4th day refeeding. And so I would do the rebounder, go on walks around the location. And everything seemed fine until the last evening.
What happened
Um,
then?
so in the last evening, we're preparing for our last meal. So typically your last meal is a big salad, but that's optional. Like everyone had gone for the big salad, I'd gone for papaya.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mainly on the comment of someone else who had left the day before who had their salad who kind of wished that they had fruit, and I didn't really feel like having a salad at that point.
Yeah.
Um, but preparing for that, I went on the rebounder. And just after being on the rebounder, I just started to feel kind of unwell. Wasn't sure what was happening. I just couldn't eat my meal, and wasn't really sure what was going on. And this is the night before we were leaving, but
Yeah.
I just felt like something in my stomach or something. So yeah, but it kind of went away after a while. Um, so yeah, we went to the airport the next day, and then I just got the sensation starting again on the way to the airport. Whenever I ate something, it just kind of triggered, or drank something, it kind of triggered. Wasn't really sure what was going on. And then on the plane, same. So yeah, this was a really weird experience. Just felt what it felt like was whenever I drank or ate something, after a short while, I'd start to feel like it felt like acid was being pumped into my left arm or something. I could just feel it in my bloodstream. And I think this is what was happening. What I think was happening is that something was getting broken up in my system and being removed, because I could feel it in my stomach as well, or what I perceived to be my stomach. So that's what I think was happening. As I drank something, it would continually break it up. So when I got home, I spoke to Loren, and he said just to keep following the process and maybe consider having a salad, because obviously I hadn't had a salad at this point. So getting home, it was kind of weird because my parents maybe saw me not in the best state getting home, even though I'd done really well at the refeeding point up to day 6. It just, this kind of took over this experience. And yeah, I took Lauren's advice and had a salad, so that was fine. And then maybe 3 to 4 hours I went to bed later, and then it just all kicked off. It just felt like it was exploding. Whatever was inside me, like the salad, I don't know if the salad was, because I was taking a salad, it was really moving the stuff on, and it started exploding, and I could just feel it.
Wow.
It was really quite an experience. But after that, the next day, it really started to mellow. Like I was still getting the same experience, but it was a lot smaller. So yeah, so my theory is potentially what it was doing was removing potentially the Accutane that had built up in my system, the remnants of some drugs or something. And it had just taken this opportune moment to remove it. I think it maybe just unfortunate it happened on the flight home, because if anyone who flies a lot will know that flying is quite dehydrating and you want to drink a lot of water, but every time I drank water I just felt worse. So yeah, but ultimately I was glad to go through the experience. It wasn't a negative experience, it was just a difficult challenge I had to go through. It was ultimately, I feel, must have been a positive thing.
Yeah.
Because really I believe that the body is going to do what it feels it can do best to preserve and help heal you. So yeah, it was an interesting experience, but really, it maybe adds the fact that the fast had managed to move something.
Have you experienced long-term benefits from the fast? Have things changed? You mentioned your back healing and.
Yeah, I think ultimately I feel a lot more confident in the way I eat. I feel that, as I said, I went there to try and improve my digestion. I feel like, I can eat a slightly less food and feel satiated. I can maintain my weight better. So, which is what I wanted to achieve. So yeah, I feel like it was a very positive experience. I feel it's one of the best things I've done. I do not regret it in any way. I would happily fast again, if I had the opportunity.
Great.
So yeah.
So just changing tack a little bit, what would be sort of your advice for people that are starting off, trying to go towards raw?
What would be my advice for someone who's going towards raw? Yeah, I think it would be to take it gradually.
Hmm.
To start having fruit, adding fruit into their diet, adding more fruit into their diet as opposed to taking anything out of their diet, like adding fruit for breakfast.
Hmm. Hmm.
Finding the fruits that they enjoy and adding them in and starting eating more of them.
Yeah.
Make it a gradual thing. Um, that would be my main advice. I think what I've learned is eating whole foods ultimately maybe better as opposed to drinking smoothies. But for someone who's just learning or coming from another diet, um, having a smoothie might be easier for them to get more calories in initially.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think the key thing to learn is when fruit is ripe, what fruit is good, and really getting to know the fruit in your area. That's a challenge I always find is when I go away on trips and come back, I don't know what fruit is in what fruit's good in the local area, my local area. I need to go to the shops and understand it again. Um, so that's a skill that you have to learn is learn when fruit is good and what fruit is good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Matthew, for giving us some of your time. I just want to say at this point, for anyone that wants to follow more and get notifications about the Love Fruit podcast, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk and you can sign up for a newsletter there, and you can see other news and blogs and all sorts of stuff there, information. And feel free to follow us on YouTube, UK Fruitfest. And obviously, you can hear the podcast on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and Stitcher, and all sorts of other places. Um, so I just wanted to say that before we finish. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I don't know if you're open to that, but if people want to ask you more questions, or are you open to that? Would you like to, or they could send the questions to us if you like, and we could pass them on to you or something, or
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a public profile that people can contact. That's not really what I
sure,
do.
sure.
But yeah, if anyone really wants to contact me, or they can certainly probably best to contact you and you can forward them on to me.
Okay, no
And that's
problem.
probably the easiest at this point until I decide to go public in my future life.
Yeah. So you can email us at info@fruitfest.co.uk. If you got any questions for Matthew, we'll pass them on. Um, and maybe there's some software engineers out there who are looking for a job,
Oh yeah,
or maybe they're looking to give you a job. Who knows?
you never know. Yes.
Um, yeah. So, what do you see your future looking like? I imagine you've been on the fruit diet like 7, 8 years now, so I imagine you're going to keep doing that. Do you see yourself staying in Scotland, or what do you see yourself doing? Any ideas?
That's a great question. It's something I debate about a lot within myself. At the moment, um, apart from the craziness that's going on in the world, I'm really happy with where I'm at.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really love my job that I do. I think we're a very ethical company, and that really resonates with me and my
yeah,
diet.
yeah.
Um, I mean, ultimately, living in Scotland, it's not the sunniest place, and I enjoy the sunshine. So, yeah, I don't know where the world is going at the moment. So that's a big question mark. But at the moment where I am, I'm really happy.
Excellent.
I'm close to my family, good friends, and great job. So, yeah. Um, ultimately, I look
Yeah, you're
for
like one.
happiness.
You're one of life's happy people. Like you love your job. Like I don't speak to so many people who say that. Like I love my job and like the company I work for and all that. It's kind of rare. It feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of naturally happened that job. Like I had to go and work for free to get that job. Like the company kind of built up around me, and so yeah, it just fate just brought me
That's
together.
cool. That's cool.
So yeah, I didn't really know where I was going at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah, but as you say, yeah, like if I didn't love my job, I would do something else. I may be more like other people who have the time to travel around the world more. Like that's why that's probably why I tend to go to specific events. Like they're organized. It's an organized time. I know it's going to be organized, and I can go to that. I can take the time off and go to that.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really think anyone's missing out not being able to travel and stuff like that. I think the events are always the highlight. Like if
oh yeah,
you get
that,
more from that week than you get from a month of like, I don't know, just sitting around in Thailand on a beach and having occasional meetups with people and stuff. Like there's no way that it doesn't match at all of the festival experience, which is just such a
yeah.
just like amazing community that comes together, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the UK Fruit Fest every year gets better and better. The Woodstock Fruit Festival every year gets better and better. And I think going to the UK Fruit Fest every year is just, that's a special experience. I mean, I think especially last year event was just, yeah, it's just magical. So, and that's in the UK where the weather's not always great.
We had a lot of
It's
wind the
still,
first few days. It was like windy, like the tent was shaking. But
yeah,
actually but it was only the first couple of days. It was kind of looking a bit windy and rained a
yeah,
bit.
not like it didn't dampen the event. Like we have no rain. Like it's still sun. We do still have sunshine here in the UK, even in Scotland. That's
Yeah,
that one day a year I just like to joke about.
it's
Um,
kind of looking back. It's kind of amazing that it actually happened. To be honest, like with looking back now, I'm thinking about the coronavirus situation, right? And I'm kind of
yeah,
like, yeah, it's because there was a lot
yeah,
cancelled. A lot of people couldn't come because they were from other countries. They couldn't travel and stuff. Um, but it still happened. Let's let's talk about the whole. What's your? I mean, you've got some interesting opinions around the coronavirus stuff, the lockdown, the regulations, and all that.
yeah. Well, fundamentally, I disagree with the lockdowns. Uh, I fundamentally believe there's another agenda at play, and yeah,
Mm.
it's clear for me to say. I just find it surprising that many people are just going along with it. Um, I don't agree with wearing masks or staying home. I believe in breathing fresh air and meeting other people is really important to our health overall. Um,
You made a good point to me at one point that like we're meant to share viruses with each other. Like that's part of immunity as well.
yeah.
Like
So I mean, I think my experience was when the lockdowns in the summer were kind of lifted, and in my organisation, more people would come back to the office. And as they came back to the office, they all started feeling a little unwell. And and I put that down to kind of like the same thing as you travel another place. Like you're not used to the viruses that are going around or being
right.
shared, the information that's being shared between people. And as people who are locked down, locking away from each other, like they're not experiencing this. Their body's not used to this, and I think that's kind of like a natural thing that it just happens naturally. It's like natural herd immunity,
Yeah.
even if it's such a little minor thing. That's kind of what I've read little things about. It's not something I'm an expert in. I can't really say
Well, I
with
think
great confidence, but yeah, I think that's my perception. Like I always tried to, like, even through the restrictions, like still contact other people and not and make sure that I'm keeping myself up to date.
yeah. Well, it's just like with herd immunity and stuff. There's a whole natural thing of when someone's sick, we tend to stay away from them. They tend to stay away. They tend to stay at home.
Yeah,
People that are
I think
well can pass it across. Like, I'm not really convinced that there's a lot of asymptomatic spread happening. I think there's a lot of spread happening in hospitals and
yeah.
stuff like that.
I mean, I think that's the great thing about it. It's an invisible virus, so how can anyone say with great confidence what's going on? But um, yeah, I think, as you say, if someone is really unwell, they're going to stay at home in bed and effectively self isolate. That's going to naturally happen. Um, so I don't believe that that lockdowns or mandating things is actually necessary. I think we would not even be talking about it at this point if we'd done nothing,
Yeah.
if the world had done nothing. Um, so it's that's why I suggest it's ultimately another reason for it. And yeah,
Sure, sure. Well, um, thanks for joining us today, Matthew, and hopefully we can maybe do this again sometime. And it's always good to stay in touch. And I do want to say to everyone that Matthew's been an amazing help with the UK Fruit Fest and has I don't know what to say. I just think you're one of the best people involved in it and one of the good people that anyone can trust. And you're, as I say, you're a legitimate raw fooder, like 100% raw person. And so people should really listen to what you're saying. So thanks a lot for taking the time to speak to us today.
yeah. Thanks, Ronnie.
So thank you everyone for watching, listening to the Love Fruit podcast. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify and other podcast places. Feel free to get in touch with us. info@fruitfest.co.uk. We'd love it if you share it with other people and help spread the message. And we'll see you in the next episode.